Hey adventurers, welcome to the crew. I'm Sea Lord Jenda, and this is my Let's Play of Pillars of Eternity. We've just talked to the Animancer lady dangling from a tree in the middle of Gilded Vale, and we are now going to wander around town and see what kind of quests we can pick up and interesting characters we can talk to. Let's see, where were we? So we've talked to the crazy lady here. We've been in the inn. I don't know who all those people are, but we're probably gonna run in a nice... Where am I? There we are. Gonna run in a nice circle around the town and try to talk to everybody. Hopefully nobody minds if I bust into houses at random. Is that a bow or an instrument? Oh, they've got a cat though. I like them already.
I'm here.
This worn, dog-eared book is titled Travels Upon the Sealed Glass Sea. There's an etched illustration of a vast-finned leviathan. They don't look like a sailor.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's an adventure book. A dear wooden woman is standing in front of the fireplace, humming a quiet tune to herself, or perhaps to her unborn child, for she is quite clearly pregnant. Or clearly quite pregnant. She turns her head slightly as you enter.
Greetings.
Well, finally, I was starting to think... The woman makes a startled noise once she turns around and sees you. Oh, I'm sorry, I was expecting someone else. She gives you a cautious smile. Can I help you? Nice cat? Oh, thank you. She's a sweetheart. Keeps the house clear of mice, too. I just arrived. I thought I'd get to know the locals. Were you with one of the caravans? She looks at you hopefully. Master Odima's by chance? Well, yes, but I don't have good news. Afra covers her mouth with a hand, eyes wide with horror. For a few moments, she can manage nothing but a strangled, voiceless gasping, her eyes brimming with tears. I told her it was a dangerous path to take. Kalisha was always so certain she could take on any danger. Afra sniffs. Oh, my poor sister. I'm sorry, stranger. I can't believe she's gone. Oh, this was the sister Kalisha's coming to help. Yeah, she's real dead. If only I hadn't called her here. If I hadn't written to her, she might still be alive somewhere. Alfred's face crumples, and a solitary tear slides down her cheek. What a bastard I'd have to be to say that. Well, Kalisha said she thought you needed help. Can I stand in for her, since she died with me and all that? Alfred looks at you with some surprise before dabbing at her nose with a sleeve. That's kind of you to offer, but I don't know if I could impose this on you. It's not a small favor. Alfred wipes at her eyes. I'm worried about the baby, about the legacy. I told Kalisha as much as I could, but all I know is that for a long time now, every child born in Gilded Vale has been soulless, empty. Oh, so it's worse here. Like, they don't just have a lot of children being born soulless, they have all their children here soulless. It's happened to so many mothers, and Lord Redrick, he's exiled all of them, calling it a sign of the gods' disfavor. She sniffs. With my Hathort gone, I don't know how I'd manage if I lost my home, too. Oh boy. Single mother in a medieval setting? That's not great. I hoped Kalisha could help me. They say Ranga, the old midwife, knows a way to prevent a child being born hollowborn. But she moved south to Onslaugh's Compass 2 seasons ago. The journey's too far for me. I can't make it as I am. But I don't have anyone else now with Kalisha gone. More tears run down her face. Please, can you help me? Yeah, I'll help. Alfred blinks, eyes wide. You will? Oh, God bless you. Here, I'll give you coin to pay her with. You needn't trouble yourself with that. I think it's a drink she fashions out of... Well, I'm not sure. But it shouldn't be too much of a burden to carry back. 20 copper. Well, that's not much, but pregnant woman and all that. Anslok's compass is what we call the lagoon to the south. You'll have to cross the wilds to get there. That's what keeps me from trying it myself. She clasps her hands together. Thank you again, truly. You'll be saving us both. She sets a hand on her stomach, smiling through her tears. Well, I don't know how long it's going to take us to get that way. Hopefully it's not actually timed, but we'll undertake it. Since the road we came in on. Well, there's more to explore up there still, but... this way first. There's synchronized running there. Kind of hilarious. Whose house is this I'm barging into now? You've got a... is that a staff? Rats scurry behind the sacks. Alright.
I'm here.
Just myself. Hi, Kara. Oh, I can just read her soul. Is that what I can do with the other guy, too? Yeah, or a woman.
Certainly.
Okay, nothing exciting here then, really. But I'll read their souls. Kara Iloth. You see a crowded marketplace. Vendor stalls lining the road, their proprietors' voices calling out to passers-by to come sample their wares. This woman wanders through the throngs, strolling hand in hand with another woman. They peruse the vendor's goods, tarrying at a book merchant with a number of old and beautiful tomes, chatting with one another about what they see. One will pick up a book and show it to the other, who will take it, comment on it, and place it back on its shelf. Then the first will snatch up the book again and quickly pay the merchant before the other can snatch it back. They walk away from the market, weighed down by packs filled with books, still hand in hand, standing close, comfortable and familiar with each other. As they pass down a somewhat deserted street, an object suddenly hits this woman in the chest and bounces off, rolling away toward one of the buildings. The women stop and look at the object, an apple, and then back up at the person who threw it. There's nothing special about him, aside from the angry look on his face and the two other apples he holds. Before either woman can move, the man draws back and throws another one at them, this time hitting the second woman in the forehead. He yells at them, something derisive and hateful, something about a legacy and about responsibilities. The woman raises a hand to her head and wipes the juice and bits of fruit from her face and stares the man down defiantly. The first woman squeezes her hand and puts the other on her companion's shoulder, attempting to calm her down. The other woman pulls a book from her pack and holds it before her, muttering under her breath. She pulls her hand free and waves it above the book, an aura forming around her. The first woman is still trying to calm her down, but all she says goes unheard. The man, uncaring of the events happening in front of him, draws back and throws the last apple. As it arcs through the air toward them, the second woman brings up her hand and points at the apple. A glowing orb of energy flies from her hand and strikes the apple, causing it to explode, raining bits of apple down on the road and buildings around them. The man's face changes, anger joined by fear, looking like he's trying to decide if running or attacking is the better course of action. The second woman started chanting again, her hand glowing, her eyes narrowing. This woman steps in front of her, placing herself between her love and their attacker. She touches her face, gently stroking it, while whispering calming words, a kiss. The woman's countenance changes. She calms, her eyes softening, her lips regaining the lost smile. The first woman smiles again as well and kisses the other. "Wizard scum," the man behind them says, and the two women turn to face him, staring him down defiantly. They join hands and begin walking again, moving past him without so much as a sideways glance. Apparently there's still homophobia in this medieval setting. Not a shocker, really. How about Edlin Prieston's soul? You see a key turned, gently, steady, and hear a ghostly click as the door swings inward. Two figures slip in, locking the door behind them, and begin their prowl. Their hunt is efficient, and it takes them little time to acquire a sizable collection of documents and oddly shaped velvet pouches. Quick hands fill pockets, rucksacks, bags. The door opens downstairs and everything freezes. Footsteps, a tired giggle. The thieves are all eye whites and short breath as they empty their pockets of all but the necessities. Anything noisy hurriedly replaced. Silence from downstairs, then tentative steps up the staircase. A voice calls out. One thief creeps forward, the other gesticulating wildly for him to return. He continues forward, crouching by the banister. He sees a gaudy shoe and shoves. The woman falls with a cut-off scream, rolling lifelessly to the floor below. Swearing, the second thief grabs her brother, and they make their escape, collecting whatever of value they can on the way out. Was someone a murderer in the past life? Or, well, not quite.
I'm here.
A thief? Or is she the one who got just randomly thrown down a flight of stairs? Hard to be sure. Not great either way, really.
Absolutely.
Alright, how about this nice little house? Very rainy in this town. Hasn't stopped raining yet, really, I don't think.
I shall be discreet.
Whoopsies. Not what I meant to do. I meant to activate this.
I'm here.
I can actually access this without it being thieving? Oh. This man and woman appear to have been deep in conversation, working at closing two bulging satchels. They move to embrace until the woman notices your approach and pauses, her smile faltering a little. Can we help you? She looks to her companion, brows furrowing with confusion. Do you know this man, Nanton? Nanton shakes his head. I don't believe so. Was there something you wanted, stranger? Oh yeah, let me just poke into all your private business. You seem to be in a hurry. Yes, I imagine so. Ingrid laughs. We're packing for a trip, actually. I've been meaning to visit Defiance Bay, and she looks at Nanton. Well, in truth, I think I've had my fill of this town. Nanton reaches to take her hand. It's time for some new scenery, he says. Anything you can tell me about this place? Ingrid smiles wryly. Only that you'll want to be moving on as soon as you can. You'll have seen the tree, I imagine, but the rot goes deeper. If you were looking for work, I'd say you have a better chance of it elsewhere. We're headed for Defiance Bay ourselves, Nanton adds. All right, bye. Can I just take your possessions because you're not using them because you're leaving? Is that the principle here? This bottle of Somriot is half empty.
I'd be glad to.
Well, it's not full empty, you know. Apparently, they don't even mind if I just take cash. Yeah, there's no other conversation.
How do you do?
I'm here.
That looks like trouble. We know there's more grain in there, Trumbull. We won't settle for scraps while you grow fat on our crops. A muffled shouting emerges from inside the mill. The first of you drunkards comes through that door gets a shot between the eyes. Gods hear me, Swain, or I'll put you down like a dog. Come away for now, lads. But we'll be back, Trumbull. And we'll have fair prices, or by the flame we'll have a reckoning. Okay, well, it's one step short of shooting still, whatever that is. Is that a torch? Lads, I don't know what your dispute is, but I don't think burning your mill down is going to help you. That sounds like it's going to cause you no end of trouble, actually. Mushroom. I feel like this is barricaded, but guess not. Trumbull. An elven man stands before you. His relatively stocky build suggesting a life of labor. His face is pale and drawn and his eyes wide. Behind him, a younger man and woman exchange worried glances. The miller raises a club as you enter. It shakes violently in his grip. Get back if you value your life. Hold on. Not here to hurt anybody. The miller hesitates, then lowers the club. Wait, I know you. You just came into town, right? Don't tell me Swainer's already got his claws into you. Gods, that's all I need. Well, what was all that outside? Trumbull shakes his head. Where to begin? Swainer's whipped them up into a froth going on about the grain stores. Claims I've hidden away most of it. All I do with the grain is sell it. I can't create it out of thin air, and I can't hand it out for free. I pay the farmers for the crops they bring in. I sell what comes out of the mill. Most of it goes to the Black Hound on the west side of town for ale, and Swainer and his lot sure don't mind that part. That's probably accurate, yeah. You take a look at the fields on the way into town. The crop's blighted, and most of what I'm getting from the farmers, Trumbull gestures to the sacks and containers, it's gone off, rotted through. I can't pay top prices for blighted wheat. I've barely got enough good grain to go around. Swainer's howling after things he has no right to. Well, it is a pretty clean story for a messy situation. Trumbull frowns. It's not... He pauses. Look, Swainer's always been a rotten bastard. With stores so limited, maybe I save the good stuff for people who deserve it. Alfra, for instance, she's expecting a child. Should I let her starve instead? Well... No. But I'm not sure he has the right to make all those choices, to be fair. I'm guessing there really isn't a lot to go around, though. Do the villagers know? Trumbull looks embarrassed. Some. The innkeeper, for instance. It's better not to worry anyone. I'll be trading for supplies soon enough. If we can just get things calm until then, we'll be in the clear. The innkeeper? Trumbull winces. I wouldn't drink the ale, is all I'm saying. Oh. Just a minute ago. You've been giving them blighted wheat for the ale? That's not... Alright, no buying the ale at that inn anymore, guys. Maybe I should have a talk with Swainer. The miller all but sags with relief. I'd be grateful if you did. He won't listen to me anymore, but maybe you'll have better luck. Tell him we're all having a hard time of it, and we'll all have to make some sacrifices. We'll be in your debt for it if you can convince him. I did actually have other questions, hold on.
Good day, stranger.
Any luck with Swainer? Isn't very complicated. I guess that's it, actually.
Hail and well night.
This is the grain. Oof. A rancid stench rises from this grain. It's mushy and mottled with green. Well, that doesn't sound super edible, to be fair. That's thieving.
I'm here.
Can I talk to these guys separate? Not really. My father's a good man. He's always done right by the town. I'm sure father can explain better. Okay.
At once.
They won't talk to me separate from their dad. Sounds like, well, I'm not saying the miller's 100% in the right, but kind of sounds like there's probably the local lord should actually be the one figuring out this rationing system, but it kind of seems like he's far too incompetent. Did I bypass this house? I think I did. Let me run back to it real quick. Oh, doesn't seem like I can get in, actually. Oh, aren't you guys fancy? Ridiculous number of adventurers with weird souls in this town. Alright, Rudolph here, Necator. You see a pair of immaculately polished leather boots and an impeccably maintained goatee. Their owner, a slightly hook-nosed man with a wicked grin and narrow eyes. He bobs his feathered hat at a nearby merchant as he ambles by, a small piece of parchment held tight in his fist, ink staining his fair fingers. He seems to know most of the merchants in the market, stopping to engage some, nodding at others, even bartering for minor goods with a select few, always smiling, laughing, and exchanging jibes. He approaches a heavy Setamoa, smile plastered stiff across his face, and jokes about the weather. She jokes back, suddenly palming him several gold coins. When he walks away, the paper in his hand is gone, and the smile on his face far more genuine. He tips his cap at her, winking, and trundles off with a new spring in his step. What is this man, an assassin or something? That's great. Thorin. It's much longer. You see a large crowd gathered in the middle of a courtyard. This man stands in the midst of them, a cloak pulled over his head, holding it closed around his neck. The crowd's congregated around a platform, and they all watch, transfixed, as a man is led to the platform, flanked by 2 city guardsmen. The man is shackled hand and foot, but carries himself as a nobleman, not deigning to even glance at the crowd. The cloaked man pulls his cover closer around his face and turns to leave, hunching over to avoid being seen. A crier on the platform unrolls a parchment and begins to read, but the man pays no attention, intent on getting away from the courtyard. The crier's voice grows louder and more intense as he reads, and voices from the crowd start to punctuate his sentences. The jeers and shouts grow more frequent. With each one, the cloaked man flinches and his shoulders droop. He breaks from the crowd, coming to the edge of the courtyard as the crier reaches the end of his proclamation. The crowd grows silent again, save for the occasional shout. The man turns back to look at the platform, seeing his father kneeling before the block, neck exposed. The executioner moves into position, lifting his axe to strike. The man turns suddenly, unable to watch. There's a wet thunk, and the crowd breaks into cheers and applause. He leans against the wall, regaining his composure, then straightens up. With obvious resolve, he strides off, away from the crowd and his legacy. That's rough. Okay, so where do I... There's a blacksmith over here. That's probably a logical place to check out. And 2 more houses. This is actually the last marked location. So for you, villager. Looks like a smith's sign to me. Yeah, Black Hammer Smithery. Not the most creative name. Guess it's not the owner's name, at least. Big on the inside. A lot of weapons. Tinted and dull, these swords look ready for the forge. It's got an apprentice, commoner, guard. Why am I allowed to just take stuff off that shelf? The bellows sigh into the furnace, and the coals burn brighter still. Oh, it's a book. Nice. I will get around to reading all the books fairly soon. I assume that's the owner. An account of Tuatanu's sales. The pages are nearly empty. It's not ideal. How's it going, Tuatanu? This Omoa man is of an impressive build, towering above the countertop. His skin is the dusky blue of the deeper oceans, and his thick arms boast corded muscle. Small ears frame a square-jawed face coated in smeared soot and arcing black tattoos alike. He offers you a broad smile as you approach. Welcome. You're the first new face I've seen in quite some time. What can I do for you here? Is this your shop? That it is. Been here near on 20 years now. Seen all manner of things over the years, good luck and bad. Tuatanu glances at the guard standing watch along the wall. But the Black Hammer Smithery remains. Why is there... I assume that was your guard, but the glance... Maybe it is his guard, but just there's a lot of theft. What do you have here? You come to us at a strange time, I'm afraid. The stock's not what it used to be, but we've fine weapons and armor to offer yet. All forged right here at the Black Hammer. What happened? We just don't have the supplies. Been expecting the next delivery for near on a week now and haven't seen a sign of it. Have to expect they were hit by bandits. The road out east is crawling with them. Or my workers ran off with the wagon themselves, maybe, to make some coin. Tuatanu snorts. As if that lot would dare. He's right about the bandits. The dire situations in villages like this and the exodus to the cities has created far too many opportunities for unscrupulous sorts. Tuatanu scratches his jaw, thinking. If you happen to be headed that way, maybe you could keep an eye out for a supply wagon. or my shipment at least. They'd be cutting through the Black Meadow, I expect. The only good road for it. As it is, most of our weapons go to His Grace, Lord Radric. Tuatanu glances at the nearby guard. And that's as it should be, but it doesn't leave much for outsiders. We just don't have the iron. Okay, that's not his guard then. Where was the wagon coming from? We send the wagon up the New Hayamar with weapons, and it swings round through Logholm and the like to purchase supplies. Shortest route back is through the Black Meadow and then north through the wilds. Tuatanu shakes his head. Had a trader come through with word they made it to Logholm, but haven't heard a thing since. All right, I'll find the supplies. Tuatanu nods. Then you have my thanks. You bring those supplies back, and I'll have plenty more to offer you. A discount to start. Oh, and if you do find my workers, tell them to hurry it up or they can take up farming instead. Fair enough. Wait, do you have any actual goods for sale? Of course, you won't find finer anywhere else. He has a 6,000 copper piece lance. It's just a pike that does a ton of piercing damage. Well, it also has +1 reach. 20% of graze is converted to hits. +1 constitution. Well, it's pretty solid, isn't it? Oh, it's got a whole unique backstory and everything. Not actually a proper lance, but rather a pike. The weapon was gifted to an Orlan maid along with a goat by her wizard master Cabrindo, who was forced to show her the door after a number of episodes of remarkable clumsiness and brash carelessness that had left his grimoire waterlogged and his laboratory in ashes. The gifts were all the soft-hearted wizard could do to staunch his guilt. Wandering from place to place with only her goat, her pike, and a reputation for negligence that preceded her, her fortunes changed one day when she encountered a pair of soldiers trapped by a group of bandits. Too short to wield the pike properly, she instead climbed atop her goat and spurted into the fray, leveling the pike like a lance and running one of the bandits through. Frightened and confused by the display and intimidated by Gina's coarse language, the remaining bandits fled and the soldiers' lives were spared. Her actions earned her a commission with the local fort, and she served with distinction in the cavalry. The original experience had given her such pleasure that she always found a place at the front of any charge. Eventually, this took its toll and she went missing after her unit was commanded to charge a group of trolls. I have literally no use for a pike, but it's an interesting backstory. This is an arbalest. I don't have an archer yet either, but seems like it's a nice bow. Crits inflict prone, 20% attack speed. A masterwork of dwarven craftsmanship, this sturdy arbalest earned its name during the Battle of Marching Mountains, where a dwarven ranger held off a group of ogres bearing down on him and his few remaining comrades. In the ranger's hands, the arbalest proved more than capable of launching bolts through thick ogre hide, holding the invading force at bay just long enough for reinforcements to arrive. While victory against the ogres proved short-lived, the tale is still one told with great pride around dwarven campfires. Why does this guy have several just legendary weapons? Azarith's Stiletto. I don't have a rogue either, but damn, that's a long backstory. Alright. The War of Black Trees brought hardship and suffering to many Glanfathans, but it bore special tragedy for its druidic orders, who were forced not only to endure the deaths of many friends and kin, but also the destruction of the lands they revered above all else. Among these was Azarith, the young Ovate. Deeply troubled by the use of the elements to turn nature against the people of our Glanfath, and wondering if he was seeing the last days of his people, Azarith took to walking the endless stretches of burned-down forests in search of something, anything that might signal a reason to hope. He found it in an old ironwood tree, thick and gnarled with roots that ran in waves through the ground as though they'd been woven there. It stood as it always had, though singed well up the side of its trunk now, while everything around it had been incinerated by the soldiers of Deerwood, leaving a wasteland. 1,000 acres in every direction. Okay, so there was some kind of genocidal war between the Glanfathans and the Deerwoodens at some point. Clearly the Deerwoodens won. Azarith plucked a single branch from the old tree, making sure to express his profound gratitude. An accomplished organic artificer, Azarith reshaped the branch into a blade that would rival any made in a forge. He infused it with the strength of the elements, vowing never again to be at their mercy, and resolving that if the tree could endure, so too could he. In his hands, the blade would find its way into the hearts of many soldiers who stood at the edge of forests with torches and barrels of pitch, and by the war's end he had saved many forests from the flame. When his years were drawing to a close, Osric made a final pilgrimage back to the old ironwood tree, which still stood, and he laid the knife at its base to be taken up by someone else in need of inspiration in dark times. On his way there, he was pleased to see that beneath the ashes that covered the forest floor, new life had begun to spring. Azarith's stiletto was unusual, as the entire weapon is dark red-brown wood, even the blade. The magic used in its creation hardened and protected the wood, preventing it from chipping or warping. Dark green vines and leaves sprout from it and wrap themselves around the hilt to form the grip. Fascinating, but not useful to me. Okay, and then he's got a whole pile of pretty ordinary stuff, which I don't think is better than anything I've got, probably. Although, I don't actually know. Like, what is Ader wielding? I didn't really look. He has a saber, which is better, so. Yeah. How about this fancy shield? Not that I can afford this fancy shield, but 8 deflection, huh? How's it compare? -4 accuracy. Yeah, that's pretty solid for what it is, I think. Because I assume small shields have a lot less, only usable by paladin. Oh, I don't even have a paladin, so that's really not helpful then. This simple wooden buckler would not be out of place in a pile of surplus training shields. Painted green, it has 2 black iron straps across its front that form a large X. It looks like it's taken far more than its share of blows and may have been in use for far too long. But far from ordinary, the buckler is in fact thousands of years old, its preservation a testament to a transcendence of its humble creation. The buckler originally belonged to one of the founding members of the Darkosi Paladini when she was just a squire, thousands of years ago, in the glory days of Old Vale. As it accumulated damage from war and weather, the buckler became an extension of the paladin's own irrepressibility and protectiveness, as well as a symbol that inspired those in her charge. She wore it in every battle of her long and distinguished career, and though the paladin's name would eventually succumb to the ravages of time, the shield has yet to do the same. It said the shield was so partial to its original master that it will allow none but a paladin of similar conviction to touch it, and in times of need, it is a way of making it into the hands of those whose souls mirror the greatest qualities of the Darkosi founder. Very fancy, but that's literally not me, so. This is good armor, although we're still comparing to Ader's. His grants second chances, so it's actually much better, even though this is slightly better damage protection on average. These rings, very expensive. This belt, pretty good, but very expensive. This cape, not that well, good for certain characters. Why is this 6,000? It summons an animat. I don't know what that is, but just based on the cost, I'm assuming this is pretty good. Oh. I need this, actually. Need this, because there was a place we needed to climb up. Pry bar. Actually, this could be handy, too. Never mind your weapons, just give me your random tools. Suppose I should. I think that's about all that's in here. But I should read these guys' souls on the way out. I assume that's what they are. Yeah. Harlan Orenson. You see a man crouching, surreptitious and alone. A series of untamed shrubs, all that hides him from the vision ahead. His eyes are locked on a Delimgan, beautiful and terrible, eyes half-lidded as she hums. A bird with fantastic blue and orange plumage sits on her shoulder, trilling gently, and the man's entranced. Trembling, tentative, he stands, and the tranquility is broken by the bird's startled squawk. The Delimgan half smiles, beckoning with twig-like fingers. She does not speak as he approaches. His mouth is dripping sounds of awe and admiration. She waits, coy and tempting, and with agonizing slowness he's before her. Then, something changes. She sees something hanging limply from his side and begins to hiss. Fingers suddenly claws and eyes black with hate. He has no time to reach for his axe or grimoire. She strikes, and just as soon as she strikes, she's gone. The only evidence of her existence, the shuddering wreck on the ground. What was the... He grabs at his grimoire nevertheless, and begins to chant, but the words of a magical language of his own imagining, scribbled in a maniacal shorthand, ring hollow, and the silence continues unabated. He turns and shrugs at someone or something, but if there's something there, you do not see it. Weird. I don't know if he literally has visions, or if he's like a... If he were just a watcher or something, we would know. I mean, we can see that, so... Dugan Steelcaller. You see a group of adventurers surrounded by a crowd of attacking Zorips. This man's with them, seemingly unconcerned by the battle, even detached from it, as he stands in the middle of his comrades, chanting, his expression bordering on elation. His voice is powerful and deep, booming out across the combatants as a rich counterpoint to the chaos of their fighting. With every phrase, the battlefield changes. His allies glow with a pulsing blue light, freezing the Zorips that surround them. A blazing pyre erupts from the ground, cutting and burning the creatures and sending them scattering. One of the fallen Zorips suddenly explodes as 3 giant grubs crawl from its corpse and attack the remaining enemies. The man continues to chant, thoroughly enthralled in the joy of the moment. Finally, the creatures have been reduced to 1. His allies stand back as the man approaches it, still chanting. He removes his hammer and swings it at the Zorip. His phrase ends as the hammer connects with its head, punctuating the spell and bringing his song to an end. I feel like that's just literally an advertisement for the Chanter class, but alright. So that's all that's at the blacksmith. I mean, a quest, so not nothing. Some useful tools, some generic weapons, some weapons that we really can't afford. It's still very rainy out here, and it's getting dark. Hopefully, nobody minds me breaking into their houses just because it's dark. This house does not have a door. Or if it does, it's not on a side that I can see. Isn't this place fancy? Well, it's got cows in the front yard, so it's not that fancy, but... Ooh, there's a plant in your backyard. A lot. Excuse me. Don't mind if I just... Oh, they got crops back here, too.
Yes?
Barreth's Bell. The nice cows.
I'm here.
Where did I leave the other 2? Get up here. It's quite dark now. I don't know that we have to rest just for the sake of resting, per se, though. As long as I've got spell slots. There's a lot of these soul-readable people around. Hugo. You see a room, bright, warm, and covered in greenery. There isn't a spot in the entire space that doesn't have some kind of plant growing in it. Small, germinating seeds in a corner here, large, sprawling vines climbing the walls there. Although most of the plants are actually in some kind of container, there are a few that have grown from the dirt floor itself. These are just as lovingly cared for as anything else in the room. This man wanders through the plants, smiling at each and every one, an old pipe clenched between his teeth. Stopping next to one, He touches a leaf, lifting it up to look at the underside, then gently rubs it between his fingers. He takes a small handful of the soil it grows in and crushes it with his fingers. Satisfied, he drops the soil back into the pot and continues to the next plant. He hums a low, cheery tune as he moves among the plants, occasionally stopping to sing a few words of something to one of them. Finally, he reaches the door, having visited every plant in the room. He turns back to look at them, a look of serene pleasure on his face. Then he turns back and is gone. Okay, so he's a, well, not quite just a gardener, but it's hard to tell what exactly is supernatural about him. Ronan Taronian. That's for short. You see a group of people standing around a wagon, transfixed on a sword as it swings in a large, graceful arc. This man holds the sword, passing it from hand to hand with a relaxed ease, making the blade dance in front of his audience. He tosses it into the air, spins, then puts his arm behind his back to catch it. The crowd claps excitedly, and a couple of them gasp, certain they were about to see a tragedy. It's not actually that exciting a soul. I mean, he's just a sword juggler.
Not a sound.
Oops. Pushing this Alt, Tab. I don't think there's anything noteworthy in any of these, and we've circled around to the Black Hound again. Yeah. None of these are marked either. All the ones that we could actually get anything useful out of were, I think. So maybe... is there a world map? Apparently not. Well, we have a couple of random quests, but I think the first thing to do, let me make sure I have spell slots, right? Oh yeah. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to head north, and we're going to clear out that, the whole road between Silent Lease and Gilded Vale that we only did half of on the way here because we ran out of spell slots. It seemed dangerous. Valewood, that's right. Hopefully it'll be daylight by the time we get there. Thanks for watching, adventurers. New parts will be up every other day, or you can watch live on Twitch. If you did enjoy the video, consider leaving a like or subscribing. Have a nice day, adventurers. This is Sea Lord Janda, signing off.